Thank you, Tom. All right, how are we doing here? Holding on well? Now you got your Dried University, you got your Christmas wish list. I think the next question is, how do we help you fulfill that Christmas wish list? How can we help you to make sure the one-on-one paradigm that so many folks have talked before me, how do we really bring that to fruition? And that's what I'm going to do in this presentation. I'm going to really kind of take some of the things that's happening in the education here in Texas and worldwide, and then how we as in Huawei, what do we have it to really take that to the next level. Oops, sorry. There you go. So these are the 4 topics I've divided the presentation into. Talk a little bit about the universal access. I know you heard a lot about the universal access so far. I'm going to just a little bit set the context here. Talk about the BYOD and some of the Wi-Fi challenges that you probably are facing or are going to face as you start taking the next level. What is our solution from Huawei? How can we really fulfill some of those requirements that you are facing? And finally, why Huawei? Just one slide there, just to see. I mean, you got a choice here. So why do we really care about Huawei? So I'm going to go there. Here is, we all talked about it, so I won't take too much time on one-on-one computing here. Before the turn of the century here, the world leaders, they gathered, and their dream, their goal, their wish was that by 2015, every child has access to primary education. So if you look before, like in 1999, if I remember it correctly, there were almost 106 million students, worldwide I'm talking here, who did not have access to the primary education. This year, or I think maybe end of last year, that number is now reduced to 66 million students worldwide. So we have come a long way. We have made progress. Is it going to happen by 2015, that dream? I just don't know. But we are taking one step at a time here. Things have changed quite a bit in the last 3-4 years now. We are living in this new world, which is basically always on, technology-driven world. Kids are born in this last decade who are born there, they know more about the Facebook, Twitter than the adults. I still don't have I don't have an account on the Facebook yet, and everybody keeps coming, my nephew keeps coming and says, when are you going to have a Facebook? I want to link to you, okay? So the question here is, so one of the kids are sharing more, they are doing a lot more collaboration. They are really talking to each other much more than the years earlier. And that's where this one-on-one paradigm, one-on-one computing was born. This dream of having every child a computer. And when I say computer, I'm really referring to a laptop, iPad, anything that mobile device that's out there. Obviously, gives access to all the internet and educational software that's there. You get access to all those 4G LTE network that we have been talking, or at least alluded to earlier today. The goals of one-on-one computing were really to bring that equality of access to technology in the schools for different students, to really improve this quality of learning, and ultimately is really to prepare those students for the future. Technology has to be transparent. It has to work behind the scenes. It should be as easy like opening a tap and things just work, actually. It's got to be like utility computing, and that's exactly the goal. The goal is really not to really bring all those high-tech stuff into the schools, into the ISD, but the question is, how can you leverage what's out there from a technology point of view and fulfill this dream from what the world leaders said years ago? So what we believe from a technology point of view, there are a couple of challenges. Obviously, there are several, like there's a quote here with Dr. Andy said, actually, he was the ISD director of Chief Information Officer, that average 8th grader has more access to literature, news, arts than a wealthiest person had 50 years ago. So now you can see the prevalence of the access to technology in the schools everywhere in the K through 12 education. If you want to support that vision, you need to have a couple of things here. Obviously, in the Droid University, we talked about Wi-Fi network. That's great, but Wi-Fi network is not everywhere. You need something and access to what we call LTE, the enterprise LTE network. You need to obviously have some sort of a device for every student. So here what we think is a universal access is. It's actually a combination of one-to-one computing, the Wi-Fi network, and your LTE network. Anytime I say LTE, it's basically the same technology that you're using on a day-to-day basis on your cell and mobile phones to connect to your cellular provider. We can bring that technology into school. You can create your own school LTE network. So no matter where the students are within the predefined limits, they can access the internet course material, the online learning, etc. Here is how some of those from the FCC, there is some help there. They have allocated what we call Educational Broadband Service, EBS. I think it was actually originally called as ITFS actually. It's a band or a spectrum of frequencies which is given to educational K through 12, non-profit educations, non-profit centers. And what it does, it's a band of 20 microwave channels which you can use really to deliver your predefined, pre-recorded or live material to your students actually. So not many people are sort of aware of that. How many people here know about this? Okay, there's at least one here. So this is something that these are the tools that are coming, at least from the Fed government point of view. And this is what we think the blueprint of the universal access should look like. Again, I should thank really Frank here, who helped create this blueprint here. What we think, no matter where the kid is, whether he's walking to the school, he's in the bus, he's in the car, he has access, whether it is through the LTE network or whether it is through the Wi-Fi when he's at home or in the school. He has the devices. He can actually collaborate and share his homework. He has the feedback in real time when he needs to know. If he's suffering from a question he doesn't understand, he can say, okay, let me go there and check this thing out, or let me go there, share this information with my teacher and see if he has got any advice for me. Obviously, we talked a lot about the challenges early on, and I'm not going to go there, budget being the number one. We know budget is not going to change. The question here is, how do you get more? How do you do more with less? How do you really come up with those creative solutions on your own that will help you to realize that one-to-one access and the universal access that we are talking about? you need to have Wi-Fi and enough bandwidth capacity to take you into the next few years. How do you do that thing? So that's where really the infrastructure becomes a little bit of significance here, even though it is working behind the scenes here. We talked a lot about the Google Docs here. We talked a lot about the Google applications. How do you get this cloud-based paradigm? How do you really make sure there is no latency? The kids are not kind of watching their screen go blank there. You have enough buffer, so to say. When you're making that phone call through voice over IP, there is no latency there. So those things are extremely important when you're setting your next generation infrastructure, actually. So let me kind of a little bit talk about some of those additional, so one-to-one paradigm is happening, but at least for the time being, we are realizing a partial dream through BYOD. But when you start implementing BYOD, and in fact, a lot of people who, I mean, whether you want it or not, it is here. So the thing is, it's better to embrace it early on before it gets too late. But there are challenges in BYOD. The number one challenge that you would be facing as you start looking into it, security, the number one challenge. How can you trust the data in the cloud? How can you really say that there is no so-called drive-by downloads? You know, we all know about the drive-by shootings, but at the same time, in the security, the cyber world, you're going to hear a lot about the drive-by downloads. The same problems that happened in the PC world a few years ago from security point of view, I don't know if you kind of have remembered the terms NIMDA and code red viruses, the same problems are now coming into the mobile world. Other day when I was kind of watching one of the YouTube video, and you wouldn't believe, there was a flash on my mobile, on my phone, it says you got a virus, click here. And I was almost about to click there before I realized, oh my God, that's something that I shouldn't do it, because I learned that thing from the PC world. Same problems you're getting into the mobile world now. Phishing emails. You're getting this email, I mean, probably you must have seen it 100 times. Somebody from some country sending an email, oh, I got a check for you for $1 million, and you need to sign here or need to wire me money so that I can send you $1 million. How do you make sure that those problems do not happen in the mobile world? Very important. Second challenge that you face, or you're going to face, is the efficiency. You need to make sure you have enough bandwidth capacity. You need to make sure you have enough APs, the access points. As the student population starts growing up, you're not going to forklift your network every other year. You're going to make an investment once, and you hope that investment is going to pay you off in the next couple of years, at least another 5 years before there is a refresh time. So you need to make sure from an efficiency point of view, from a performance point of view, from a reliability point of view, from a redundancy point of view, you are taking care of the network as you start installing it for the first time. Obviously, we can't predict the future. We don't know what we don't know, but at least we can cover our bases. We can look for that infrastructure that shows us the future. And finally, I think the third challenge you're going to face is a better experience. And when I say better experience, I mean to really say a consistent experience. We have a choice of devices. We got phones, we got tablets, we got iPads, we got Android, we got laptops. How do you make sure that when the kids are coming or accessing from any of those devices, different operating systems, different ways of accessing to the network, they get the same experience. Apple taught us the importance of user experience. And at Huawei, we had taken that to heart to the next level when it comes to the network experience. This is sort of an end-to-end architecture. I won't go there, but I'm just going to give you on a very top policy level, very top block level, I'm sorry. So if you look at the Huawei's end-to-end architecture, but before that, let me make just comment there before I go there. I think, as Jane was saying earlier, Huawei is the ICT player in the market, which is really bringing that IT and the CT together into a single solution. We have, which I don't think anybody else, any other vendor, as you compare it, an end-to-end solution, which means all the way from the terminal, from the devices, to the application. And in between, you got network there. So you got devices, you got network, and then you got the application. And the only player who can do that, at least today, is Huawei. So let's quickly talk about the end-to-end architecture here. So here, basically, we have several applications from a BYOD point of view. Huawei is pretty big in partnering with the third party. So there are enough application from a CRM, ERP, or your legacy application as kids start to access the network, as children start to access those online educational material. There are applications like Blackboard, etc., that you may already be running in your classrooms. So you need to make sure there's a continuity of those applications. So if we don't have the application, we have enough third party helping us to develop those applications. Policy management. Just one comment on the policy management here. As we get more and more virtual, as we start moving from a physical classroom to a virtual classroom, it's extremely important that the policies that you have, they become logical. When I say that thing, what I'm trying to say here is policies should not be tied to a device. We are moving from a device-centric world into a user-centric world. And actually, to be honest with you, I think the next step, what we would like to see is an experience-based world. But at least today, we are in this user-centric world where your policies move with the user. So no matter where that user is located, no matter where that user is coming from, he gets attached, he has the same privileges as if he was working from a physical classroom. Network here, and obviously the point I wanted to show here is we got the whole portfolio of the wireless LAN, the 3G, 4G cellular network. As Jane was saying, we are the number 1 in the mobile networks, the LTE. If you look at the Fortune 500s and the world global base, on a global basis as well, Huawei is the number 1 in the mobile packet core. When I say that thing, mobility has been Huawei's hallmark, and we have taken and leveraged the same technology from our strengths in the carrier world and brought it into enterprise, or so-called ELTE. As someone was saying, maybe it should be not enterprise LTE, it should be educational LTE. So we are exactly bringing those things to you. Switching, we talked about one of the latest innovation here. A lot of things happening. Probably you might have heard the terms SDN, etc., the programmability. We are bringing something that is much more open and not proprietary based. Security, as I told you, the challenge from a security products point of view, as you start expanding, as the need for the bandwidth goes up, you need a firewall that can keep up to the performance of your network. Here, we have got something like a 1 terabit performance firewall that can actually filter the bad traffic and let the good traffic go. The reason I said 1 terabit, because hopefully in the next few years, and I would say at least in the next 10 years, you probably don't need that performance. But at least having that investment protection today, I know if I need it, I can expand it. Pay as you grow model. I don't need it today. Why should I pay for it today? Okay, that's great. But at least when I need it, I don't have to really forklift the whole equipment and infrastructure and say, oh, let's bring somebody else, and he's got the performance. So giving you that satisfaction of investment protection is extremely important. VPN, you need that encryption. You really need to make sure when the children are accessing from their mobile devices, that data is encrypted. When you're going to the Google Docs, when you're downloading those applications or using those applications, your data transmission has to be secure. In this world, you cannot let it open. IPS and IDS, basically. So think of this way. Firewalls are like the locks on the door. We put the locks on the door so that nobody who's not authorized cannot enter into the room. But what happens if somebody follows that person? He's not supposed to come in, but he made his way. So you need an additional protection. So you need the video cameras in the room to make sure you know who is there in the room. The same thing is true in the security world. You got your firewalls, but you also need the IDS, the IPS, which is absolutely very similar to your video cameras in the room. So you need that protection. And web security. So this is something what we refer to as web firewalls, WAF, web application firewalls. When you're visiting, for example, and again, this is just for an illustration here, you type in www.cnn.com, it lands you in a page. You say, oh, I typed cnn.com. It's a pretty legal page, but how do you know that page is legal? How do you know that server who is serving that page is the right one? You cannot differentiate because somebody can mock up that page and serve you that CNN.com because there is a man-in-the-middle attack. Somebody is intercepting your traffic. Somebody is intercepting your packets. So you need to make sure from a web perspective you are protected, and that's exactly what WAF or web security do for you. And finally, you heard a lot about the tablets and smartphones. You really saw the presentation earlier, bringing what Huawei Ascend P6, actually the slimmest phone or the largest screen size on the phablets from Huawei. So going into a little bit more detail onto this unified access. So Huawei has got something what we call any office. Any office is a client that is installed on your mobile devices, whether it is a tablet or it's a phone. And the job of any office is actually threefold, actually. It is your access component to the network. Basically, before you can access the network, it really tells you, it really checks your mobile device, your posture on the health of the device, the operating system, all the patches, the right version level, etc., etc. So it checks on that thing. The second purpose is to really create a VPN tunnel for you. And the third thing is it really something what we call, or you probably may have heard the term, MDM, mobile device management, to manage the life cycle of the device. So all those three functionalities come together into this any office client. From a security perspective, when children are using BYOD, you need to have a mechanism to ensure that the personal data is separate from your from your classroom data or your homework, or nobody can steal or copy the paper, the last assessment, etc. So that's where this any office client comes to rescue. It keeps your personal data, it's based on a sandbox technology. And what it does is keeping your individual, your personal data separate from your so-called the enterprise data, or maybe your school data, as you may wish actually. So anything that you do in this sandbox is completely separate. The personal applications from your Gmail or Yahoo Mail, they cannot access this sandbox and vice versa. Once you close an application within the sandbox, everything is wiped out. Your cookies, your browsing history, the URLs you visited, anything else that is your temporary data, anything that is out there is gone, as if it never existed. So giving you that protection that you're looking when you allow this BYOD into your classrooms. I talked a little bit about the policies earlier. The policies have to become a lot more logical. The policies are user-based, user-centric. They're not device-centric. Mainly from a policy point of view, there are 4 things that are very important, and that's what defines a policy. So when I say policy, you need to make sure who is accessing your network. Whether that is a legal or authorized student in the classroom, or somebody coming from somewhere else and pretending and faking to be the student. You need to know where that student is coming from, what network, what access method. He's coming through the LAN, he's coming through the WAN, he's coming through the Wi-Fi. What is his access methods? How is he coming? Is he using a VPN tunnel? What application is he using? Is he authorized to use that application? And all those 3 W's and 1 H, actually you can't see 3 W's, 1 H, that forms our security policy for Huawei devices, pretty much covering the whole context of the user. So this is just kind of giving you and illustrating some of the so-called authentication methods when the students are accessing the web or the internet, so to say. Sorry. If I can go back. Yeah. So there are several ways of doing it. So people who are a little bit more on the more into the nitty-gritties of the deployment. But the point I'm trying to make on this slide, that we adhere to these standards. We have several methods of accessing and authentication. There are standards like 802.1x as you get into the deployment and building that network. So we have all those methods of authentication, whether it's a so-called portal authentication for somebody who is a guest into your network, who come from a different school district, needs a temporary access, you can do that too. So here actually, I think I have a slide here, sorry. There was a slide here. Maybe it's, yeah. So even if there is a guest there, he can actually has limited access to the students, to the network. Okay. High performance WLAN network. So we talked, remember some of the challenges when I was talking? I was actually talking about the efficiency. This is where this network comes to deliver what you need. Some of the very innovative things that have happened from a Huawei Wi-Fi network, what we call MIMO, multiple in, multiple out. Don't worry about the technology here. But the point is, using some of these features, you want to make sure there's no coverage hole left. So kind of just to help explain that point here, we all seen this Verizon ad, oh, can you hear me, right? So this guy's trying to talk and they can't talk. Same thing, think of the same thing in the data. You're sitting at one corner, yes, I can connect it. You're sitting here, you can't connect it. You need a network that is omnipresent within the coverage area. You don't want to have to move from one desk to another desk because on the another desk you have a better coverage. So you need some sort of features to help you do that thing, and that's exactly what the top left does for you. Quality of service here. When I say quality of service, main thing it's trying to tell you is from what we call is a traffic shaping. Congestion avoidance, actually. How do you police your data? There may be some applications that are a lot more critical, and you don't want the kids to play the game of Doom or something when you're trying to teach or do something. So you need to make sure non-critical, non-significant applications are given a low priority when it comes to transporting that data, as opposed to your mission-critical things that you really care about. On the bottom left, actually, there's something what we call smart scheduling here. Basically, it's trying to tell you if there are some users who are coming with the low radio power, they might be cut off just because they cannot connect anyway. And if they start connecting it, they're gonna use or sort of abuse some of the power of the access points. So point here is, and then finally the last high performance chips here, just to kind of one line here, there are, as I said, we are based on open standards, whether it's authentication or whether it comes to the Wi-Fi. The latest standard, if you kind of go deep into the Wi-Fi technology, you probably must have heard the 802.1n, I'm sorry. That standard brings the performance into the gigabit range. Now, my Wi-Fi network has a much faster speed and performance, maybe to my wired device. So Huawei is the first one to launch that in 2012, actually. We had several trials, so we are already spearheading that curve now when it comes to the Wi-Fi performance technology, and that is really based on some of those custom ASICs, on some of those high silicon that we have created for our Wi-Fi. Another very important thing which you would need actually is some of those simulation and testing methods actually. As you start deploying your Wi-Fi network into your classrooms, into your schools, you need to know how many access points do I need? What is that? Where do I need more performance? Where I don't need it? How do I connect it into my switching infrastructure? So you need some testing tools. You need some simulation tools. You need to debug and troubleshoot. And that's where all these tools available as part of our networking portfolio are going to help you. So finally, at the end of the day, as we start moving much more through the BYOD and one-on-one computing into the Wi-Fi world, you really need a unified network for both wired and wireless. Years ago, when wireless started, wireless network used to be an overlay over the wired network, which means you are still maintaining two networks. And that's a lot of capital expenditure and cost to you, especially when the budgets are tight. So now, with the help of all these products, you can have a unified wired and wireless network with a single policy that you can configure at one point and not have to worry about which access methods, which device, which application. They're all carried throughout this unified converged network. So a little bit just kind of on the management side here, I think it probably deserves a quick mention here. In order to maintain, in order to configure this plethora of devices and boxes, you need a single tool that is like a single pane of glass to give you that visibility from configuration, management, provisioning, troubleshooting. All these things should be done by the single tool, single application, and that's what we bring to the table in the name of eSight. eSight is our single pane of glass for looking into this multiple boxes and devices and tell you what's going on, give you that visualization, help you look. These are your eyes into the network. And the advantage here is it's one tool for everything that's out there. Kind of show you a portfolio of some of our Wi-Fi boxes here. So as I said, we have got the 802.11n, which is the existing. We are going into 802.11ac. We also have access controllers, which are actually built into our switches so that you don't need a separate access controller to control all your access points. And if we continue to implement on our roadmap, you're gonna see these hardware-based access controllers changing into software, which means you don't even need a hardware. As long as you have the right version of the software running onto your switches and routers, you would be able to get to that access points. Advantages of all those things, as you can see here, more bandwidth, better coverage, and lower TCO. Exactly trying to answer the question when budgets are tight. What do I do? How do I do more with less? What are the creative solutions I can go after? This is one of the choice. Quickly on our mobile, you see here. So we have these applications, especially in the classrooms, where the mobile conferences, etc., becomes very important. So by the click of just one button, you can actually do this collaboration, this sharing of the data with your fellow students, actually a student to student. So here, that's exactly what we bring to the table here. Seamless experience, transparent to what's going on. In fact, just very recently, there is a company called IDEO. It's a world-renowned based in Palo Alto. It's a design company, and we were awarded the Best Design Award from IDEO. Okay. Quickly talk about our device lifecycle here. BYOD needs some sort of application to really take you through the device lifecycle from the time you acquire, or the students acquire, or teachers acquire that device, all the time before you retire that device. And that's, if you remember, I was talking about any office earlier, the client that is embedded on our box, on our mobile devices. MDM is part of that any office. So when you acquire that device, you have to register that device. When the device is registered, you have to start deploying it. That means you have to have the right applications, right policies. And once you have deployed it, you have to, as you start using it, that means really making sure from a security point of view, the policies, the upgrading, the applications, etc., are all done seamlessly. And before you retire, you need to really make sure things that you don't need on the device, all the enterprise, the corporate data is wiped out. Okay? So this is kind of similar to what I was talking earlier. It's an automatic registration of the device, which means the first time device accesses the network and the network doesn't know that device, it's going to say, okay, it's going to take you to a portal page and ask you to fill in that credentials, the information. And based on that credentials, if they satisfy the corporate policies, you're allowed to get access in. The main thing I'm trying to tell here is how easy it is to bring a new device into your network. It's a one-click deployment. There are some of the security things here. So we made sure through our AnyOffice, through our MDM client, things like jailbreaking, things like somebody changes the SIM card. You got to be, somebody needs to be notified. The administrator needs to know what's going on. You lost a device. How do I do the remote wipe? I'm logged in. I was allowed only 10 tries on my password. I'm done. What do I do here? All those things can be done remotely through our MDM client. You want to install an application. You want to do an upgrade of the application. You can do what we call OTA, over the air actually. So all those things, all those features are there in our MDM as part of the AnyOffice. Okay? So this is kind of gives you a complete holistic view of the BYOD necessities that you would need, which is basically your applications. I didn't go too much detail into the application, but we have applications like push mail, secure browser, some of those office automation applications that are also applicable onto your K through 12 education. And if we don't have an application, chances are there are some third-party vendors that we can really work with who have the application that you need. We also have something what we call the MEAP, Mobile Enterprise Application Platform. What it does for you is helps you build an application. You need something, we don't have it, but we give you the framework, the infrastructure, the hooks into our operating system that you can use to build the application. I talked about the MDM, enterprise networking, and terminals. So it gives you all end-to-end that you would need, managed by eSite and security on the right-hand side. Really, anything that you would need is available from Huawei. A little bit on the ELTE technology here. So this enterprise LTE technology helps you build a cellular network which is in the range of like 100 kilometers. You can see here some of the performance speeds here. You can have a download speeds of up to 100 megabits with an upload speeds of 50 megabits. So basically within the range of radius of 100 kilometers, you have your own network. You don't have to depend on anything else actually. You have Wi-Fi at the school and at the home. You have an ELTE while the kids are on the move. If the children are playing in the playground or they need something, they want to share something, it can be a real-time feedback session. So no matter where folks are, anytime, anywhere, any device, that really comes to realization with the ELTE Wi-Fi and the devices together. So this is just a quick stats. We have deployed our BYOD into our own backyard. I mean, eating your own dog food, so to say. You can see here some of the numbers here, monthly stats here. Our productivity is almost 50% more productive. And there is a very significant dollar saving when it comes to adoption of the BYOD. I know we talked about a little bit earlier in the earlier presentations of why Huawei. Why should you start looking at a different vendor? Again, it's not a sales pitch. It's just trying to kind of give you a point of view here. And then you be the judge. You decide what works for you, actually. but extremely customer-centric, globalized company that you probably haven't heard so far, the most open kept secret actually. Serving, as Jane was saying, serving 1/3 of the world's population. So that means if you think there are 6-7 billion people, around 2 billion of the people are directly or indirectly connected through the Huawei network actually. So, and the rest is kind of trusted, responsible, and obviously we care a lot about the quality. So with that, I think it's time for lunch, unless we have some questions or anything, or we can talk about the lunch. Anything on your mind? Anything that you kind of, just feel free. Let's make it interactive. Let's try to kind of see how we can help you more. You know, there's no right or wrong question, okay? So please. Anyway, I think it looks like.
Thank you, Ajay.
Thank you very much.